Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that glistens. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community with the latest in legal marketing, law firm development. I'm Jake Sanders. He's Paul Julius. Paul, you just let your soul glow. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm like dew on morning lilies.
It's just a little. And is that sweat? It's just the hustle. I'm just hustling.
You got to.
Every day. Speaking of hustling, we have an amazing show, and it's glistening. Tell everybody what's
blooming.
What's blooming
Today on the show, we're talking about how to get the business side of things working in your law firm. First, with an article from mycase.com, and then we talk to lawyer and business coach Allison Williams about growth, organization, marketing, and more. And of course, we attempt to surprise our guest with the planned randomness of 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The article today is from mycase.com. It's by Jared Correa, friend of the pod. It's entitled, How to Manage Your Small Law Firm Like a Business. Paul, this is great, man. Do you want to introduce it and give your hot take first? I just love this guy. We always love this guy.
Yeah. So the reason I picked this article, number one, it's because it's by Jared Correa, who's a cool guy and he knows what he's talking about. And number two, we've been down this path frequently on this podcast.
True.
And particularly in episodes where we are maybe pointing out some problems that are, for some reason, seem specific to law firms, but they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a business problem. And anybody who, starts a business on their own you're going to have to wear a lot of hats when you first. I think the problem with law firms is that they don't realize that when you wear that hat, you have to kind of take on a different perspective and a different approach. So they do things that, as a business owner, they think, lawyers think it's okay, but as a lawyer, they would never do that. You wouldn't ask a client, or you wouldn't ask a witness a question you didn't know the answer to. But they guesses all the time when it comes to business.
And you wouldn't like fail to do your due diligence and research going into arguing a case, but you would totally go into, picking out an influencer for a new social media campaign that you may or may not be invested in fully. I totally hear what you're saying.
Well, and especially on the marketing side, we've run into it a lot where, everybody says, TikTok, get on TikTok. We got to get on TikTok. Well, what do you know about TikTok?
Do you? Yeah.
Who else? Why? What's the reason? Who are you trying to, influence on TikTok?
And is that maybe the first thing you need to do? And you pointed out this quote earlier is, they're making decisions in an ad hoc way, but it's very similar to every expert that's running a business. Yeah. And it's great because Jared, this quote at the top is so funny. I wanted to share it with everybody, though. He says, you've probably never said, wow, that lawyer reminds me so much of Steve Jobs. And that's because lawyers don't operate as business managers with anything like the precision they exert over their legal work. But it is funny. You're not inspired by lawyers doing marketing or making really amazing brand decisions, but you are, but maybe you view them differently. You look at the billboard lawyer or the TV lawyer and you say, well, that's just some whackness, and that's not for me, solo, small, law firm person. But the thing that's so great about Allison and what her law firm mentor, whole methodology is she's a lawyer herself and she's gone through these marketing woes, but come out the other side with a plan and a system. And that's sort of what Jared's talking about is project management, process management, systematizing things, rather than getting it stuck at these ad hoc levels. Because maybe you do have business skills as a lawyer. Maybe you're a great marketer and you're a crap lawyer. I don't know. Maybe you can get far that way. A lot of lawyers are maybe shaking their heads. The truth is, you have to have a system. And that's what's exciting about Allison is she has this system and outlines it for you in a way that you can manage your small law firm like a business, and get closer to crushing that chaos. That's what Allison says. And this whole thing is chaos, because it's hard and that's cool. And we can empathize with that. But just sort of pulling it out every once in a while and then every quarter, when the P&Ls come in, you fire the marketer or fire the intern that you're doing, marketing with,
After they re-explain to you what the P&L is again. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem here is that it's either there's no, that's the one thing I hear a lot. There's no time.
Right.
There's no time.
No time. Who has time?
But I will say this, the people that we talked, and I understand it. Look, you didn't get into law so that you could spend time marketing your law firm. I get that. That's why you hire people or bring someone in to handle it in-house either way, if you can. Ideally, you should if you're going to be serious about it. But the people that we've talked to who seem like they are really on point, who really are doing it, they have a YouTube channel. They're all over social media. They're in and they get it. It's not just need a lawyer, hire me. Need a lawyer. They're participating, engaging. They have a sense of community. These are people who've made time for that. And it seems like when we talk to them, they don't seem like they're pressed for time. Mm-hmm. And I think that just stands out above everything and Allison talks about that when she's talking about crushing the chaos and, taking back your calendar, like the number one thing before you get to all of this, before you can get your staff and your finances and all this stuff is you got to get a handle on your time.
Mm-hmm. Time. And that's the one thing, the non-renewable resource, that we're working with, time and effort, and it's money. And that's why we're not going to waste any more of yours. We're going to jump into this interview. You're going to learn all of these, tactical, strategic things that can help you manage your small law firm like a business, like Jared's talking about, crush chaos like Allison's talking about, and then talk about marketing and how you can gain back that market share, gain back that time, gain back a sense of who you are and who you want to be and where you want to be, which is right here on the Lawson Podcast.
Let's go.
Lawson continues. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Tired of being dragged around by Google AdWords or lackluster website designs? Yeah! Are you a lawyer looking for a digital marketing company that you can trust? Yeah! Well, you need ConsultWebs. Yeah! Since 1999, we've driven 1 million leads to our law firm clients. We only work with lawyers, so our designs and marketing campaigns are battle-tested. And since we've started, we've generated hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients, and we haven't even broken a sweat. Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, a Lawson interview.
Allison Williams is the founder of Williams Law Group, a full-service family law firm where she is a fellow of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, is certified by the New Jersey Supreme Court as matrimonial law attorney, and is certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and Family Law. After taking Williams Law Group from startup to a multi-million-dollar business in 3.5 years, Allison created a second business, Law Firm Mentor, where she provides business coaching services for solo and small firm attorneys, helping them grow their revenues, crush chaos in business, and make more money. And now she joins us in the Lawson Studios. Allison, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
So let's just jump right in. Talk about this Law Firm Mentor. Give us like your elevator pitch. What inspired the idea? Take us there.
All right. So as I tell people all the time, Law Firm Mentor is a business coaching service for solo and small law firm attorneys. We help them to grow their revenues, crush chaos in business, and make more money. And that came from my own personal experience. As you noted in my bio, I started a law firm. I was a very successful lawyer when I did so, but I was a great lawyer. I was not great in business. I didn't understand it all. I thought, hey, you go, you start a law firm, people pay money to get your service. That's how it works. And there was a whole lot more to it. And I did what I normally had gotten into the habit of doing. When I didn't know how to do something, I worked harder. And you can only work so hard when you are in a startup mode because you're learning everything from scratch. So I didn't recognize that. Started working 60, then 70, then 80 hours a week. And I capped out at 90 hours a week. And after firing my third incompetent employee, finally said, I will be a secretary during the start of my day, a lawyer all day, and a secretary again at night, and I'll just crank it out 7 days a week until I get a hold of things. And I never got a hold of things. Frankly,
Right.
what ended up happening was one day I had finally gotten to a place where my schedule was clear, got excited about going home early, quote unquote, at 7 p.m. that night. Driving home, I got so excited about the possibility of sleeping for more than 5 consecutive hours that I fell asleep driving home and woke up 1/4 centimeter away from a guardrail.
Wow.
That was kind of the aha moment that working harder was not working. And very quickly realized that I needed to work differently, work better. I started working with coaches and very quickly learned some principles that got me a lot of traction. And over the course of working with various different coaches, mostly on my mindset, which is kind of the roadblock to all people's success, I very quickly turned my startup into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and I wanted to share that freedom with the rest of the legal community. So that's why I created Law Firm Mentor in 2018. We are now almost a 7-figure business, and I serve clients all over the United States, 16 states so far represented in various different practice areas. And we are committed to helping lawyers get out of the chaos and get their business and their life back.
So how common is a scenario that matches yours? How common is that burnout, that level of burnout with the clients that you get on board?
So I'd say most of the people that find me are finding me in some level of distress. And it might not be the exact same distress that I had. I had too much to do because I had a book of business. I had a following, if you will. So I wasn't really afraid about not having clients. But most of my clients start a law firm and their hustle is to find clients. And they then are balancing finding clients with the distress of not having enough money, with the distress of not having enough time to orchestrate the business and also work in the business as the only lawyer. And putting that all together, you easily get to burnout and overwhelm. And so I'd probably say that's 90% of my clients. There is that 10% of people that are already at the 7-figure stage where they want to become the CEO. So they want to extract themselves from the day-to-day grind. They are still lawyering, managing, leading, and grinding, and they want to not do that so that they can do other things. But most of my clients are in the building of a business phase, and that's what we help them do.
I mean, talking about that and you know, your near death experience.
Jeez.
Where do you start? Like, you know, sitting down with that lawyer who's burning out, who's hustling for those clients and trying to serve the clients that they have. You know, where you have all these different pieces. You've got this marketing bit, you've got this client service side, obviously the law side, you know, administrative, like
Self-care.
how do you help people determine where the best place is to start?
So every client that starts working with Law Firm Mentor in any capacity, whether it's in one of our annual programs or in private coaching, we always start with a business plan because my firm belief is that you can't get to where you're going if you don't know where it is. So we start with a business plan and then we start to look at where the most friction is. And for most people, when they are in burnout mode, they can't think through problems soundly. They are in crisis mode. So we got to get you out of crisis mode, which usually means starting where you have the most distress. So if you're not making enough money, that oftentimes means you're not pricing yourself appropriately. You are holding on to clients that are not paying the bills. You are working with people that don't fit the kinds of work that you are good at. So you're just kind of door law, you know, anything that walks through the door. So we get you out of that as soon as possible. For some people, they have enough, they're making enough money to support themselves, but they are really kind of what I call they're the firefighters, right? Everything is a crisis. Everything is an emergency. People walk into their office all the time. And the first thing I say is stop being so damn available to everybody. So you close your door and you create rules and structure around your time when you are available, and no becomes your favorite word. And you say it to everyone. And when you learn how to say no effectively, people know that your time is at a premium, which means they use your time better. They don't come in and wander around the plantation with 5,000 questions. They know that they have a very discrete amount of time to ask you the questions you're going to answer. Other things, you're going to give them guidance and help them figure it out. And when you start creating space around yourself, you can actually start thinking and making better choices for yourself and your business. And that usually gets people out of overwhelm. And then we start working on actually growing the business, because we got to get you to a place where you're functional first.
So you're talking about this business plan. I wanted to ask about marketing. Is marketing a little bit different than business, a little bit different than business development? Is there any kind of correlation here? Like if you're talking about a business plan, what does it mean? And then how does that connect into the marketing piece? Because you were talking about, people just want more clients. Well, just get me more clients and everything will be fine. Is that the business plan? Just more clients?
So the business plan includes various different components. Marketing is only one piece of it, but it does include a comprehensive marketing plan. So the marketing plan needs to include certain things. As a general rule, you need to decide what activity you're going to do to generate clients. And it is not as simple as sticking a website up and hoping if I build it, they will come. You do have to do things to optimize your online and your offline presence. And so we think about what are the types of activities you're going to engage in, and then we put numbers to it. And I know lawyers hate numbers, but you have to put numbers to it. You have to think, how many hours am I going to spend on this activity to expect that I'm going to generate a certain number of leads? And from those leads, a certain number of those are going to be viable, right? Because everyone who needs your service isn't fit to work with you, and they can't all afford you. And then once you get to your viable leads, how many of those are actually going to take action to schedule an appointment and convert into a client? And you need to make that plan, go through that analysis for every marketing funnel that you have. So every activity needs to have a plan for how many people you expect to come from that activity, and what is the rate of client retention that you expect from those activities. Once you have that, you then can start making some budgetary plans around that. But that's kind of the basic formula.
So when you're talking about those baseline measurements, you're talking about where your most valuable clients come from. In some of our surveys, just amongst listeners and the audience of this podcast, how many of lawyers know the cost per case, cost per lead is very low? That number is low.
Low like none.
Okay, I want to be generous. I don't want to be too generous. But
maybe 1%. We'll give it that. How about that?
Okay. Oh, that's wow. So, but that's maybe more realistic. Why? So you said at the beginning you didn't have this business acumen when you came out of law school. 90% of people are in crisis mode. This very important metric is almost escaped everybody. Do you start there? Do you help people go through their book of business and look at those tire kickers and then the people who are really going to generate clients, and then lean people towards that? Do you just get people hyped on their own data? How do you get this? How do you get to that valuable client? Because everybody wants a brain surgeon who's been in an accident with a Circle K truck.
Yeah. Well, this is what I tell people. I tell them I put their gut into a spreadsheet. So if I ask the average lawyer, where do you believe your clients come from? They have an idea. I get some from my former clients. I get some from my adversaries. I get some from my local chamber of commerce, and everybody has the gist. So what we have to do is actually put rational numbers to your gist. And that is a lot easier than most people think. But I actually walk them through that exercise by having them go into wherever their database of information is. If they don't use practice management software, they've got an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. They've got a Post-it note. They've got a sticky. They've got something, right? we go to that something and we see where the clients came from. And if the clients are coming from a source, they are often coming from the same type of person within that source. So it isn't all of your clients referring you again, it's certain clients. And what we tend to find, this isn't universal, but we tend to find that it is the certain type of client that you most enjoyed helping, that you created the greatest relationship with, that gives you the most future business. And so what we do is we create a model around replicating that process with the people that are already working, because the best way to make money off of people is to serve people that you have already served. They already have buy-in, they convert at an almost 100% rate. You can get, best case scenario, the greatest return on people you've already served. So if you need money, the first thing I do is say, call the people you've already served and offer to serve them again. They're either going to have the same problem over again, they're going to have a recidivist problem, or they're going to know people like them who have similar problems. So you can start to get cash. And once you get cash, almost invariably, not even spending it, just knowing that it's available to you creates a level of ease that takes out the anxiety that stops people from getting into action.
Yeah, and that anxiety. Talk about that anxiety, because there's also this, like, I don't want to do it. I want clients, but I don't want to be gross. I don't want to stand out there flipping a sign. I don't want to buy an ice cream wagon or whatever. That'd be dope, actually. That'd be good. Buy an ice cream wagon. But you know what I'm saying? People kind of feel greasy about it. They're past that, or how do you help lawyers not feel like cheap clowns?
Yeah. Well, so I tell people, everything has a system. Everything that I do in Law Firm Mentor, everything I do in my law firm, and everything I teach lawyers is about the system. So when you can just follow instructions and you don't have to decide for yourself if it feels good or if you like it, and you can just trust that somebody who has done it before you and done it very effectively had success at it. So if nothing else, you have something to believe in that's not your own limiting beliefs. So you can then take the system and you can work the system. So we give you a script for how to engage with people. And you're not going to call them and say, hey, can I sell you something?
Right.
You're going to call them and say, hey, I'm closing out your file. We've had a conversation before. I served you in a certain way before. I am growing my business. And I liked to work with you because fill in the blank. I would like more people to serve like you. So if you happen to know anybody, and that then opens a door, because one, if a person has an issue, they'll volunteer that it's there. Two, if they know people, they will immediately think of those people when you're on the phone with them. But most importantly, what you're doing by saying that you want business is you are sending a signal out to that client and every person that person comes into contact with, that you are a source to receive what they have to offer. And that's probably the greatest impediment that lawyers have to growing, is that they don't ask for business. We sit down in consultations and we say, hey, let me tell you all the law I've got and all the judges I know.
I got all the law.
I got it all. Now, if we're done with that whole giving you legal advice, whether I charge you for it or not, let me give you a retainer agreement and send you on your way and hope for the best. No, let me help you.
Right.
Do you understand that I can help you? Great. Let me do that now. That's going to cost a certain amount of money. We're going to start the process by doing X, Y, and Z. Let's get started. And so we train people on how to have sales conversations that are not salesy, so that they know how to engage with people to get more business naturally, and it starts to expand upon itself.
My marketing heart just grew 3 sizes. That was nice.
And I think you underlined something here. I'd like to go a little further with, talking about reaching out to, former clients or maybe even current clients that you're closing things out with. We run into this a lot, just because the arena that we're, typically doing battle in is kind of the mid-sized firm and marketing and stuff. And it seems that, that you're always going up there. There's always this David and Goliath thing. You're always battling some giant firm, or there's always somebody, for the people or someone, some big dog that's there that you got to fight with. And it seems like there's kind of 2 realms of marketing. Then you got these big firms that have the money, they're doing billboards, they're doing TV, they're flying blimps. And then there's all of us. And I think it's pretty cool that you just said, here's a great way that you could start with what you have. Here's you have this list, you have this book of business, dig in there. So, is there like a dividing line with that? I mean, do you see there's some approaches? I guess what I'm looking for, is there an approach that you take with your clients who maybe aren't the multi-million dollar firms to kind of, say,
Right.
hey, you can do marketing without having a $2 million marketing budget, or you
Right.
don't need to go on TV if you can't afford it. Like, where do you kind of guide them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. This is what I'll tell you about that. When I was a lawyer working at a mid-sized firm, my firm had 46 lawyers when I left, and over 100 people on the team.
Huge.
There was a general expectation that you were going to figure out how to generate business if you were one of those lawyers, or you weren't, and the firm was gonna feed you. And I always knew that there was security, or at least the perception of security, if I had a book of business, because I could walk away without having a feeling of being displaced or, God forbid, being fired, right? So I started trying to figure it out, and I stumbled upon something without really even knowing it, which is I started kind of emoting about my cases. I created a blog back before blogging was a thing, the little homemade WordPress blog. And I would go to court. And then every morning I got up, I created a rule. Before I could go to the bathroom, right? We all have to do that. Before I could go to the bathroom, I had to put something onto the blog. So I would roll over every morning and just spit into the blog back when dictation was just becoming a new thing for me. I'd say, I went to court yesterday and such happened. Or I experienced this. I was in the courthouse and I heard two people fighting about blah, blah, blah. If I was their lawyer, I would have advised them such and such. And I developed a following. And so all of a sudden, the area of expertise that is my area is child abuse and neglect law. So in addition to being all those things that you read in my bio about matrimonial law, I have a unique niche in that I put myself in an area that is the poorest segment of the population, and I figured out how to sell it at the highest price point possible. So at $600 an hour, I sell people representation in child abuse cases, a figure. And so I'm blogging about that, and people are finding me. And the beautiful thing about that is that what I learned is that I started to create a trail online about me. I wrote articles, I blogged, I put information on websites, and next thing you know, that data lives into perpetuity, and people still find me today based on articles that I wrote back in 2008. So what I teach my clients is really the codification of that, that unconscious competency that I had, that I now put into play intentionally, which is omnipresence. Marketing is all about mass producing content. So every time you do something, it is never a one and done. It is always to be repeated. So if I go speak somewhere, I'm recording it. I'm transcribing it. It becomes a Facebook post. It becomes a LinkedIn article. It becomes a graphic with a catchy tagline on Instagram. It becomes a link on my website. It becomes a hyperlink to somebody else's website. It goes in an e-newsletter. And next thing you know, that one thing that I did creates 10 or 15 or 20 pieces of content, which doesn't sound like a whole lot until you consider that if I do 5 things a week, I have 100 pieces of content at the end of my week. And that 100 pieces of content I can then repurpose so that the next week I don't just have another 100 because I have 5 more activities that created 20 more pieces of content each, which then became 100 pieces of content. But the first 100 and the second 100 build upon themselves. So every time somebody searches me, they have 1,000 little pieces of micro content that take them to the next piece of content, to the next piece of content. And there's just a large web. And that doesn't take a lot of time. And it's free, right? It's free for me to call somebody and say, hey, you don't know me, but let me come speak to your audience, absolutely free of charge. Maybe I'll bring some snacks if I'm going to be the industrious phase. But if not, I'm just going to show up and give great content. I'm going to learn how to speak in a way that people are not bored to listen to me. And at the end of the day, you don't have to do anything other than let me get on your stage. And the people say yes. And then you have an opportunity. So even if you don't get a client from that moment, you get an opportunity to get in front of people, which gives you more opportunities to create the pathway for more clients in the future. Very fast, very easy, very inexpensive, and get you growth very quickly.
That's amazing. There's a crowd cheering behind me and Paul. Me and Paul just put yes in our shared chat because that's amazing. Distribution is the part that a lot of people forget, and also they think it's 6 original new pieces of content, not one piece broken into the many different pieces. Now, I love that. Brilliant. Now, talk about time. You got a solo here. She's just running the show. How is she going to figure this out? Do you just time block? Is that the answer? How do you know what I mean? Like all I could think of is like, well, just have to set aside some time and have a panic attack at 2
Right.
every Tuesday.
As what I help lawyers do is get more money and more free time. They don't have time in the first place, right?
Yes. I love this brilliant idea about content. Oh my God, let's go content. There's no time. How talk to this overwhelmed person?
So here's the stuff that nobody's going to tell you when they're trying to sell you coaching services or when they're trying to help you. You have to be okay with being less than perfect, which means there are things that have to come off of your plate that you think are so important. But here's the real of it, okay? Judges don't read half the stuff that's put in front of them anyway, in most jurisdictions. The fact that you only wrote something once, didn't write it 17 different times, didn't put 15 different citations for the same legal principle in your legal brief is not going to make the difference. When you show up to court, the fact that you have only read your legal papers once, maybe twice, not 7 times, is not going to make the difference. Your clients don't care about how brilliant your legal argument is. Your clients care about the likelihood of success. Once you get to a certain threshold of competency, what matters between your ability to win and someone else's ability to win has much more to do about how you are, whether a judge likes you, whether the stars are aligned on your day, than about how brilliant your legal brief is. And if you just shave a little bit of time off of all of that level of perfection that we're all aiming for, you get enough of your time back that you can put into something that can get you more faster. And what I always tell people is you have to be able to stomach being less than your best for a period of time so that you can have enough money to buy your best. You're not going to get there if you are over here being the best damn whatever, the best damn trial lawyer, the best damn real estate lawyer, the best damn immigration lawyer. You're not going to get there because there are only so many hours in a day. So if you focus on being exceptional at lawyering all day, every day, you don't have time for business. And it's not optional if you are in business. Your business ethically requires you to be at a certain level of competency in your business. So if you focus on that as much as, if not more than you focus on the lawyering for a period of time, yes, you will feel uncomfortable, especially my trial lawyers out there. I'm one of them. I had a big ego, I had a big reputation. I didn't want to risk it. I wanted to be great. I had to be okay with the fact that my greatness was going to show up in whatever came out of my mouth when I got there, which meant there were times that I went to court not having read what was in the docket before I got there. There were times where I had to meet with a client having skimmed the document that they sent me 3 weeks ago, 5 minutes before I walked in. And it feels embarrassing to say that, but it's the real. For those of you that are already having that life and you're still scrambling, a lot of it is you could probably afford right now to hire somebody if you stop taking the crap cases because you're so afraid not to have cases. And if you started pricing yourself appropriately. And if you started doing what I'm talking about in terms of getting marketing out there and on a system.
That's called the real.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating, and I think it really struck me as you were talking. It's almost like breaking down tape of a game, preparing for the next game. Whether you're watching football or basketball or something. It's like, what do we have to do to win? We don't need to score 600 points. We just need to have more points than them at the end of the game, and we win. And that's it.
Well, but Paul, you're bringing up an interesting point because Allison's talking about the best damn this.
Yeah.
And every book is you're going to be the best. You're a badass. Yeah. You're a tiger. You're a lion. You're a dragon. You're going to ride this lightning. You control the future. You'd be like, you're a time traveler. You're a ninja. And does that set us up for failure too, in some way? Because what you just said is so nice and beautiful and raw, and everyone says, "Oh, social media, be authentic." Nobody actually wants to be like that because there is this vulnerability, and there's such a proliferation of just go. You're going to be the best. Does that hurt us and hurt our chances at making meaningful change?
Well, I think in the legal profession in particular, it does. I mean, it's not that it doesn't in other places, but you have to think about what the legal profession is. You have to be a certain level of sadist to sign up for a profession where the entire purpose of your job is to go in and attack someone else or let them attack you and to see who's standing at the end of the case, right?
Right.
So
Fair.
There is a certain self-sacrifice that comes with wanting to be seen a certain way. And what I have found, particularly with litigators, but really across most lawyers, is Most of us became a lawyer because we either wanted to fight for ourselves when we couldn't when we were younger, or we wanted to fight for other people. We have something to prove. So there is a certain level of, I'm going to show up as exceptional because I want you to feel that way about me. I'm status driven. I'm money driven. I want you to have a high opinion of me. So yeah, saying, I'm going to show up as kind of a mediocre person is definitely not going to go over well. So what I always tell people is there's a way to fake it till you make it without having your back operation, your backdoor operations be exceptional, right? So you can show up in the flashy suit and still, get it at Walmart. That's essentially what we're talking about here. So it's the same thing when you're with your clients, right? Your clients want a person. So if you don't believe that, go to all of the psychological literature. I can pull it for you if you need it, that suggests that people are now much more likely to watch a video where a person is in a sweatshirt, standing outside, recording on their iPhone, than a nice little packaged video, that costs 10 times as much, 100 times as much, and you're a nice little package. People are drawn to the real because we are so plastic now. And you can use that to capitalize on it. So the real thing that we have to do, and the one thing that I focus on with Law Firm Mentor, is getting people out of their egos and out of the mindset of, I am going to present what feels good to me, rather than I'm going to present what gets me clients. Because frankly, I will show up in a chicken suit and dance on the side of the road if that is what is going to get me where I want to go. Sitting in my suit in a nice little polished office with a video camera is not going to get me there, at least not in the same way. So you have to ask, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? Choose.
Quote bomb.
If you could tell our listeners just one thing that they could start doing like today, right now, that would improve their law firms, what would that be?
That's a very good question. So there's a lot that we've talked about that kind of touches upon this. But the major thing is that they have to realize that they are the source of all of their problems. And I don't mean that from a place of, let me blame myself or beat myself up. But you have to realize that if you don't like the experience that you're having in your law firm, you created it. Create something else. And if you don't know how to create something else, get help to create something else. But don't become defeatist and say, I have no choice but to work as hard as I'm working. I have no choice but to make what I'm making. You made the choices that got you here. Make different choices.
Why is it so easy? That advice seems so easy. Why are most lawyers not doing it?
So it's not easy. It is simple, but it's not easy. I could probably spend another few hours talking to you about how the subconscious mind and our programming works. And I'm not going to go there because most people kind of tune out when you go there. But
right.
The reality is, we are in an ego-driven, status-driven profession. Our profession is built on looking a certain way and sounding a certain way and presenting yourself in a certain way. And you have to chisel away at your belief that says that that is what sells in order to get yourself into a place where you can do what's necessary not to. Because the reality is, if you're told this works and it doesn't work for you, you need to be doing something else, or you need to be asking yourself, why is it not working for me? And most people don't go to, it's not working for me because I'm doing it wrong or because I don't believe. Most people go to, it's not working because it just doesn't work. So I have to be poor, or I have to work 90 hours a week, or I have to take crappy clients, or I have to charge by the hour instead of a flat fee, or I have to charge a flat fee instead of by the hour, or I have to have my office in this little rundown building, or I have to work from home. Everybody makes these assumptions about what you are expected to do because that's what you have been programmed to believe is your upper limit. So we have to shatter that upper limit and recreate a whole new vision of yourself. And then once you believe in that vision, we start putting things in place that have you completely optimize the way that you do everything. Everything runs on a system, and then it becomes easy. But it doesn't become easy as soon as you decide. It becomes easy once you commit.
How can people learn more about you, Allison Williams, and find you online?
All right. Well, I'm some of every place. So, of course, I practice what I preach. I'm omnipresent. So you can find me all over social media. But if you want to get some basic information about Law Firm Mentor, you can find us at our web address of lawfirmmentor.net. And if you are a podcast listener, which of course I know that you are because you're hearing me here, I do have a podcast, the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast. You can find us on all the major platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that fun stuff. And of course, I welcome you to check us out so that you can learn more about how we help law firms to grow their revenues, crush chaos in business, and make more money.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Last book that I read was Traction. I read it for the 4th time, Gino Wackman, and it is all about systems in law firms. And in particular, it's not actually specific to law firms, it's about business, but it has a lot in there about how to operationalize your community of people and get people doing the right things in the right way.
Awesome.
Nice. All right. Number 2, what is your favorite place?
My favorite place is Turks and Caicos Island. I absolutely love the 7 stars resort there. I've been there a couple of times now. Breathtaking, beautiful, clear water, parasailing like a dream. Favorite place in the world.
Obviously.
All right. Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
Okay. Well, there's a lot there.
Okay.
So, of course, I listen to my own podcast, which I referenced earlier, but, shameless plug. I will also share that I listen to the Successful Mind podcast by David Nagel. And David is a life coach who gave me a lot of insights into how to function in the world in a happier place. And so I credit him with absolutely being instrumental in changing my life.
Cool.
But beyond that, I am a big proponent of kind of being a surfer of content. I am always consuming content. I follow a lot of different channels on YouTube. I love to see what lawyers are doing, but I also like to see what people are doing outside of the world of law. So it's kind of a hodgepodge, but there's a lot out there for people to learn. Always put in something in a search engine. Don't just read it because it's on a website. Consider the source and then kind of do your due diligence on the source. So that's one thing I will say is kind of a general rule for life.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
good.
Trust but verify. All right. Number 4. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Oh, I thought you were going to say only one condom.
I know. I have to be so careful when I ask that question.
That's the second time that's happened. You're like, well, it's pretty close.
It is pretty close, right? Well, if I'm stranded on an island, a condom isn't going to help me. So I would say horseradish sauce. I absolutely love horseradish.
Excellent.
Love it.
Excellent
Spicy,
answer.
creamy. It's got a little of everything.
Yeah. All right. Last one. After a long day or long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
Well, I have a beautiful spa tub in the new house that I built during this pandemic. So that is how I like to unwind on a Friday night. Put the hair up, get in the hot tub, just relax and take a nap.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.